storytelling at the beginning, and then, of course, let me see, I've got an agenda here. So I'll give you a description of what well-being is. I'll give you some lovely statistics. It's always good to have statistics, and they will come in the form of actually 3 reports. I found some nice other statistics apart from the McKinsey report and a Deloitte study. We're not going to go through the entire report or the entire study, so you won't be falling asleep. Just the main points, and then at the end I'm going to look at all the different things that we can do, different things that we can think of, the hints and tips, and a little bit about the learnings that I've come away with over the years, working in many, many, many different teams of all shapes and sizes. So what do I mean by well-being for teams? I suppose that's going to be the first topic. Better clear that up. The well-being here, this is one of many definitions I found, but it was the shortest and the closest to what I feel it is. And as you can all read on the screen, for those of you who are short-sighted, well-being is the balance point between an individual's resource pool and the challenges faced. So really, it's a little bit about resilience, having the ability to bounce back, to deal with everything that's going on, which is currently not very easy at all. I'm speaking to a lot of people who are struggling, and I'm actually learning an awful lot about mental health and well-being in the workplace. There's loads of books on the subject. Here's one that I'm currently reading. You can see it's full of bookmarks and labels of various pages where I find it extremely interesting. And I'm actually on my second reading of that book, and I've got a couple of others, because it's a fascinating subject and it should be implemented everywhere, as far as I'm concerned. But we all know that it's just a question of doing it, not only looking after ourselves, but looking after other people. And below the quote about what well-being is are the first set of statistics for you. And these are fruity ones to take away with you. And I just wanted to know that, did you know on average we spend over 3,500 days at work over a lifetime? And when I first read that, I thought, that's not that many. But then I sat down and worked it out and thought, yeah, that's quite a lot. And it's as people are spending more and more time at work longer and longer, as retirement age is pushed back, that's only going to increase. But it's a quarter of our life, at least. And that's not, that's also taking in, of course, time for sleep if you're a good sleeper. But yeah, it's quite hard. There are advantages to work, of course. It gives us a sense of structure and purpose and hopefully satisfaction, but not always. Hence, talking about well-being for teams of wellness at work. Plus, what we all work for is the wages. They do say that if you do a job that you like, you never have to work a day in your life, but I don't know anybody personally who does that. But my main point today is, of course, work also causes stress, and that's what we're going to look at today, the different parts that well-being in work addresses. And when I talk about well-being, I'm thinking of, let me go to the next slide, the holistic part of how we need to have well-being integrated top down at all management levels and all aspects of our well-being. And I'm talking about career, emotional, you can read it all there. I'm not going to go into the details here. Financial, physical, social, psychological, and there's more. There's all sorts of little side parts as well that we need to take into consideration. And I know that there's an awful lot of people struggling at the moment. I had a phone call with a guy the other day who sadly is being micromanaged. His whole team is. I was asking about his team, and his whole team is being micromanaged. He cannot leave his desk for longer than 10 minutes at a time. his boss will call a meeting at a moment's notice, or they're just being pressured to stay constantly at their desk. He's not allowed to manage his own time, and he's working from home, and he's more stressed than he would be in the office. And if he goes to the office, there's another stress. It's traveling. He would have to get the tram or the metro or the bus. It's just he can't win whichever way he turns. So we know that stress at the moment is very hard. But even without COVID times, all of these items need to be taken into consideration. And so we're going to have a little look at, not so much in depth, we haven't got time to go into depth, we've got like another 30 minutes or so to go through. But I'd like to give you some examples of how I've worked in teams. And I thought of two examples that I have of what has worked for me in well-being, and now that I've actually thought through the process, how I've dealt with them in the past and whether I've been successful, and areas where I've not been so successful. So let's look at the successful one first. Many moons ago, long time ago in my long distant past, I managed a pub, a bar, and I was in charge of the whole team, the whole running of the place. And I don't mean just the logistics of ordering all the food and the drinks and everything else, but what made it such a well-run place was we looked after each other, and I looked after the staff. I made sure that they had basically everything they needed, not only just for the bar to make sure that there was lemons to slice and ice to put in the drinks and tongs to serve the ice with, and enough glasses, enough beer, enough whatever, to make sure that the fridges were stocked, to make sure that the bins were emptied, to make sure that they had everything. I took another broader aspect. Because I was manager, I wasn't behind the bar. I actually looked after the people. If there was people being aggressive, I was also the bouncer. If there was people sick downstairs in the toilets, I would go and clean that up, to look, so that the bar staff didn't have to leave their place. They could stay in place making money, which is what all businesses want. They want continuation. So the people in the staff, the team, felt really supported. And I didn't realize this at the time, but this was what they now term as servant leadership. I did all the things that were necessary and to show them a way. I wouldn't ask the team to do anything that I wasn't prepared to do myself, and I had to show that as well. So that was a really good team. And the social part of it, and the bonding part of it, went even further. I used to ensure that we had lunches together, because mostly we worked evenings in a bar, of course. I made sure that after work we sat down, we had a drink. While things were being finished, the coffee machine was being cleaned, we had time to sit down and play and talk and sort of work out what went right, what went wrong, and then just talk about whatever fun things we did during the evening, the jokes that we shared. So it really was a constant on-the-go team-building effort. And I looked up, because they were generally people that come over looking for work traveling, I often had to help them out with finding a place to live, helping them sign contracts, understand the contracts, get electricity turned on, their meetings with doctors. It was a whole entity. So I looked after their career, if you like, their job. I made sure that they got their money and they were well paid. I looked after their social well-being, their emotional well-being, physical, that was a bit up to them. We worked hard, we played hard, and also their psychological well-being, but the whole team looked after that. So when I look back on that, that was a fantastic well-being environment without even realizing that that's what it was. And I'm feeling a lot better about it, knowing that I did that sort of work. Now, moving on to the not so positive, many moons later, so closer to now, about 10 years ago, I worked with another team in an IT world. I used to be an IT consultant. And that didn't go as well as some other teams that I've worked in. And the reasons behind that is, For an IT project, for any project management, what you need in a team is to have people with all the relevant skills that you need, the technical skills to be able to complete the job. There wasn't much matching of personalities or people's mental health and well-being within the teams. It was get the job done, and I still feel that it's pretty much like that today. There are team building days once a year, which a lot of people shudder about. Even the word team building can make people feel a bit but that didn't work so well over time, because I was used to building team spirits. I managed to pull it a little bit together, even though I wasn't the project manager on that particular job. I was sort of the unspoken team builder, if you like. And I did look after people's well-being as much as I could, making sure I spoke to people, made sure that there was inclusion, made sure that people weren't, that had their say, and that they felt within the team that they were looked after and they were contributing. There was a purpose to their work. There was a mini success there, but because of the nature of the job, it was much harder work to do it. And we didn't really have the support of the upper management. We were sort of a remote team. And it wasn't very often that the management came in and checked that we were okay. They made more sure that the customer was happy rather than the team was happy, without realizing that if you've got a happy team, then the customer's going to be happier. So now let's move on to some statistics which show a little bit more about proof, if you like, from studies that show that what I'm talking about now helps. And you can see here, I hate reading slides, but of course, for those of you who are busy doing other things, let me say it out loud. The managers that prioritize their own well-being, and I had to look after myself as well, can really better help others prioritize theirs. Without the bickering, the egos coming into play, the sort of fighting against positions, if people feel as though they're included and belong, then the workplace can lead to huge statistics like this, a 54% increase in job performance. If you're feeling good, you're going to give your all. If someone's going to cherry pick some of the best jobs and you get left with something else, you're not going to be so motivated. If you feel as though your voice has been heard and you can actually give your input, you can feel that and you will do more. Also, if you're not included, if you're not happy in your job, of course, you're going to ask to move on to other jobs, to be in other teams, people that have a nice team leader, people where you are included. And we found right at the beginning there was quite a turnover in staff, even though they had the relevant skills that we needed. But the problem was that it wasn't really an inviting place to be. And it was only once the team settled down that we implemented days where we'd get food in and all eat together. Someone would go and get the plates, someone else would get knives and forks, someone would do the ordering, someone would collect the money. It was a real team effort that we actually had a really good team for a couple of years and it became more stable. We got an awful lot more work done because it was very collaborative. The 75% decrease in employee sick days, again, a lot of companies, they say you cannot take a Friday or a Monday off because they know people want a longer weekend. But if going to work is a pleasure and you're sort of having time with the staff and having, building relationships or a little community up with your team, you're not going to be off taking these extra days off. So it does decrease employee sick days. People actually want to come to work. They're not going to get up in the morning and think, oh my God, it's Monday morning. I really can't. I know I shouldn't have gone out last night, but Yeah, so I think that's a huge statistic. I don't know how they came up with that, but still, whatever decrease in employee sick days can only be a good thing, because if you are a team, people that are in a team, they don't want to let the others down. So it's all about being a community, looking after one another. It's not just looking after self. So that's a big theme here today. And I added this line at the bottom because this is something that I hear quite a lot, especially at the moment. A lot of things are going on within environments, and some people are in the office, some people aren't in the office. Some people might be off on pregnancy leave or sick leave or whatever leave. So not everybody is up to date on what's going on. There is no water cooler talk anymore. There's less gossip. There's less people knowing what's going on in other people's heads. You just don't have that anymore at the moment. So they showed that the micro exclusion, feeling excluded, can lead to a 25% decrease in a team's performance. I mean, this is just a taster, if you like. I mean, there's so much more that goes into it. People need a place to sort of talk to others, to feel as though they know what's going on and sort of they feel included. So, but I thought that was a really important statistic there. Now, this is another statistic, if you like, that I thought was quite shocking. Again, even if the statistics aren't as high, I thought that it was very interesting that organizations that established a kind of inclusive culture in teams are twice as likely to meet or exceed financial targets. And in actual fact, from what I remember from the IT team that I was in, that really did make a difference. Once we started delivering results, because we were a team, there wasn't one person sort of holding on to the information to protect their job. They asked for information or help. We needed more people. So people were a little bit more flexible. Once that inclusive culture came in and people started helping each other out, we really did. We were able to deliver far more on time and then thus meet financial targets. Or for us in our team, wasn't necessarily financial target, but it's all tied up. It worked a lot better. Here it says they're 3 times as likely to be high performing. Going back to my bar days, if everything is provided at the right time, just in time sort of work, 3 times as likely to be high performing. Just as another statistic, the bar that I worked in, whether this is interesting or not, if you drink Guinness, we sold more Guinness in our bar than all of the other bars in Belgium in total. We were the biggest seller of Guinness in Belgium at one point. So we were the highest performing team, and we just pulled pints. But that was because they were allowed to be behind the bar. They had everything they needed. They were in top form. They were looked after. They felt provided for. They felt appreciated. And boy, did they perform. 6 times as likely to be more innovative and agile. Yeah, flexibility on our behalf and flexibility on their behalf. That always helps. If you're told that is your job, do it. Just do as you're told. People aren't going to respond to that. So I think people's need to be listened to and appreciated to make them more innovative and agile and be flexible. If the bosses aren't flexible, why should the staff be more flexible? And of course, 8 times, which is a huge statistic, more likely to achieve better business results. I don't know how true that is, but certainly looking after each other and everybody else really does help in sort of the well-being for teams, in mental, physical, intellectual capacity as well to be heard. So we're finding that very, very important. So we're moving on to a different part of well-being, but it's still all about relationships and inclusion and um, building up relationships, not only within the team, but also relationships with management. I added this statistic because I thought that it was very interesting. Drivers of life satisfaction, for example, a lot of people just look at statistics on job satisfaction, but it's bigger than that at the moment. And well-being for teams, you have to think about everything outside of work. It's not so, I don't care whether you've got two wives got to go to hospital, the job needs doing, stay here. You have to think globally for the well-being of the team, and sometimes that can be very stressful. So here, mental health is a big one. 36% of a driver in life satisfaction. Job satisfaction, big, but there's more and more people with millennials here saying that they're rather picky. Job satisfaction is quite high, but mental health and all the rest is also very important. Job satisfaction here, the one that I can really attest to, is the interpersonal relationships. I think it's very important that we build relationships. Now, as I know, team building's been around for many, many years, but really the support that we do is very, very heartwarming, and being able to feel included and have your say, have your voice heard is, for me, one of the biggest things around. I've been heartwarmed when we had the real lockdown in COVID, we had a lot of people doing shopping for others. There was a lot of people supporting others. Now it's sort of not so much, I find, but certainly when times are hard, that's when you find out, when the chips are down, who is going to be helping you. So I think it's worth building interpersonal relationships with my neighbors where I live, with the people that I work with, but more importantly, with people that are working remotely. And relationships with management. Oh, that's a sticky one. And yeah, you can see here how important it is for people, not just having a relationship with your co-workers, but certainly relationship with management. If management isn't involved, if management doesn't care, then the statistics are going to just dive. And when the relationship with management and your project manager and whatever, any leader in any position at any level, if well-being isn't integrated into that relationship, then things are just going to go to pot. I think so. Now, there was two very interesting quotes, which I'm going to show you now on the next two slides, which I liked. So I thought I'd share them with you. And these are from McKinsey. So these are the top people for corporations. Businesses that are looking to make an external social contribution should, paradoxically, look inside. Improving workers' job satisfaction could be the single most important thing they do. Maybe you should print that out and put that on your wall if you're finding that your bosses and businesses aren't doing that. And there's a lovely little story which illustrates that. I'm going to have to make sure that I don't talk too much. Time is flying by. But there's a lovely little story of, and I don't know where it came from. I came across it one day and I saved it as a snippet for such an occasion as this. And the story goes like this. There's this farmer who consistently every year wins awards and prizes for his wheat. He grows the best wheat in the area. And so one day this local newspaper, wanted to interview him. So he did a little bit of research. And he found out that the farmer was distributing his seeds, the same seeds that he was using for his award-winning wheat. He was distributing it to the farms around him. So this reporter went along to the farmer and asked if he could interview him. And he said, thanks for coming along today. Could you just tell me one thing? I've got a main question for you is, why do you give your award-winning wheat seeds out to your neighbours? And the answer was, he said, with a little unknown thing is when with wind, the seeds that are blown onto my land, if they cross-pollinate, if I'm getting bad seed onto my land, it's going to lessen the quality of my wheat. So in order to stop that happening, I deliver my seeds to my neighbors. So there is no cross-contamination, no cross-pollination. Everybody has the same chance as me. Of course, there are other things that I do to increase the quality of my wheat, but at least I know all my neighbors are not going to be disrupted by that. He said, by raising the quality of life, if you like, for my neighbors, I'm also helping the quality of life rise for myself. And there's a quote right at the end of my presentation, which will reinforce that message. But I thought that was a really good story to show that it's not only looking after ourselves, but we have to look after everybody else. It's not just about bringing the money in for the bosses. You have to look after your people. The second quote, in many ways, it says here, there's only one question any manager needs to ask. How do I make my members' lives easier? Physically, cognitively, and emotionally. And research shows that the servant leader mentality and disposition enhances both team performance and satisfaction. And I love this quote because it made me feel so much better about how I ran that bar, where I got the servant leader quote from. I've seen it before, but it's only now that it's really made a difference to me, how providing everything from all aspects, from social to physical to mental to psychological, emotional support with team members really does enhance both team performance and satisfaction. I'm still, and this is over nearly 30 years ago, I'm still in contact with most of the team members from that bar today, and we have a great relationship. So it really is long lasting and immediately visible, the difference that shows. Going on to the 4 practices that McKinsey came up with. And again, I could spend hours on these 4 topics, but let's go through them fairly quickly. They said that in order to have effective teams, you need to show empathy, compassion, and vulnerability. What do they mean by that? Well, empathy is understanding if people are having a bad day or sort of need time off or need to work something out. It's not saying just get the work done, get the job done. It's having empathy and compassion for people, especially in times like we are today. I'm lucky. I've got a little office here which I'm in, which is fantastic for me, and I can sort of make whatever noise I want. I'm away from the end of the house. I know there's a lot of people that don't have a space that they can call their own. I know that they don't have an office, whatever. They may have young children running around, especially at the moment. Schools are back now, so for me it's great. My kids are both at school. But I know other people don't. And vulnerability, I like this one. I hold a lot of team meetings even now. As Brian said at the beginning, I run a lot of different clubs. And one of the things that I do on a general basis, especially for the men don't talk, is we always have a check-in moment. And we ask like 3 questions. So the first question was just, how are you feeling now? And a lot of men, a lot of people actually, I should say, don't necessarily know or can put a name to the emotion they're feeling. But if they're given the chance, at least they've been asked the question. So being asked, how are you today? And you're not, it doesn't help if you just say, yeah, fine, everything's okay, yeah, just carry on. It helps if you actually answer it properly. Yeah, I'm feeling a bit sort of, yeah, I'm good today, or I'm down. So question number 1, we ask, how are you? What emotions are you feeling? Second questions can be, if you've got the time, is what's going on for you at the moment? Has your dog just died? Have you got toothache? Has your child didn't do their homework? You're up all night helping them, or your kid's sick, or what is going on in your life? Because that can give then everybody else in the room an idea of why you might be grumpy or why you might be happy. It's my birthday today and nobody knows. Wow, happy birthday. So being vulnerable, being open to what's going on around you can change people's impression of you. If you're just grumpy, they may not know why you're grumpy. You may just be tired. So being open to how you're feeling, what's going on for you. And the third question we ask is, what do you need? Do you need to be left alone today? Fine, we can do that. Do you need support? Do you want to talk? Do you want to go for a coffee? Do you need sleep? Get under the table. What is it you need? So empathy, compassion, and vulnerability are very important elements to me. Gratitude. And it's not just those three questions that you can ask yourself, name three things that you're grateful for, or having a gratitude diary. It's actually showing appreciation for a job that's been done for you. And I remember one occasion, going back to working in IT, we used to have to, because we were part of a web team, I worked closely with the webmaster, getting things live, putting things into a test environment. Once it had been tested, then they would go live. So it took a lot of negotiations and trying to get some of the time from the webmaster, who was extremely busy. And I always made a point of thanking him. And one day he said to me, God, you're so English. You thank me for everything. I said, no, I'm grateful. I know your time is demanded. I said, so thank you. So I think showing gratitude and showing it and meaning it is very important as well in team building. Positivity, of course. If everyone's a grumpy, I won't swear. If everyone's feeling grumpy, of course, it doesn't help. So to have a positive attitude, somebody that's not too bouncy, but certainly being positive about, yeah, this is great. What's going on, we know, being clear in what's being said and needed, and having a lot of awareness and self-care. I'm not asking everybody to look after everybody else. We also have to take responsibility for our own wellness, well-being, mental health. We have to make sure that we eat well, drink well, sleep well, all the things that are necessary for our own health. And we'll have a look at those afterwards. And self-awareness. So I might have to skip a couple of slides. Organizations need to think about well-being, according to Deloitte. Well-being isn't just a gender or generational issue, it's an issue that's faced by all workers at all levels. They do say for bosses it's lonely at the top. Don't feel sad for them. They're earning it. But really it's at all workers, at all levels, at all times, every single day. We're all going through it. So I think here the word is to be kind. Everybody is going through something, always. Modeling well-being behavior is critical, especially for the new millennial talent and men. They can be more picky, or certainly are more picky. I think well-being behavior is good rather than behavior that's bad for you. And number three, fostering a culture of well-being. It's not just saying, okay, Monday lunchtime we'll have a yoga session for everybody and Fridays we'll have fruit. It has to be part of the culture. If someone's having a bad day, if the company is big enough to have an HR department, there has to be somewhere that people can go, but they have to know about it. There has to be communication. There has to be an openness in the company, and it has to be not looked down upon at all in any way, shape, or form. So it all has to be taken into consideration. I mentioned earlier that people need to feel as though they're belonging as well. There has to be a certain level of comfort where people feel respected and treated fairly. Treated fairly is a big thing at the moment with Black Lives Matter and everything else that's going on. People need to feel at least listened to, respected, and treated the same as everybody else. Connection. They've shown this with statistics, where workers have strong relationships with other colleagues and other teams as well. If you rely in any way, shape, or form on other teams and other colleagues outside of your immediate team, of course, building relationships and networking really is very important. And contribution. Gosh, time's flying. Contribution where workers can see and appreciate the impact they're having on an organization's goals at large, that they feel connected with the organization's purpose and goals, their mission statement, their whatever. There's a lovely story, a very quick story, which I'll bring in at this point that I like to illustrate that. There was a guy walking down the street and he came across this building site and he was a bit nosy. So he went up to the first person. He said, what are you doing, mate? And the guy said, I'm laying bricks. What does it look like? I'm laying bricks. The guy said, oh, thanks. And he went on and he saw the second man and got a bit further. And the guy said, what are you doing? And he said, oh, I'm building a wall, a very big wall, the main wall of the building. I'm building this huge, superb, fantastic, well-detailed wall. And he said, oh, well, thanks, that's interesting. The guy walks on and he sees this other man. And they're all working on the same site, all doing the same job, but the guy sort of knew that. The answer of the third guy was more astounding. When asked, what are you doing? He replied, I'm building a cathedral. Now, all three men were working on the same building, but it was their perspective on what they were doing. They could appreciate the impact of what they were doing and the organization's goals. It's not just laying bricks. It's not just, or maybe it is part of building the best wall that he can. But if you're involved and you know you're involved with the organization's ultimate purpose and goal to build a cathedral for people and what that brings to people, that can make all the difference. So it's quite an illustrative story. Yeah, we'll skip that because it's all about contribution and connection. Very interesting. You'll get the slides, I believe, afterwards, so you can have a look at these afterwards. Another big thing for people's mental health and well-being, and this is a slide I could spend about an hour on, is trust. And the one on the right-hand side, trust of character, is one of the biggest ones for me, is managing expectations, establishing boundaries, personal boundaries as well, delegating appropriately, not just cherry-picking things or giving or having preferences for people. Things have to be done appropriately and encourage mutually serving intentions, by which I mean we're all on the same boat. We all need to help each other. We all need to keep agreements, not sort of do things sneakily behind people's back, and consistency is the matter. Is very important. In fact, all of this, the whole triangle is important here. The trust of communication, telling the truth, sharing the information, being open about transparency is hugely important. Admitting mistakes, being in an environment when you can say, yeah, okay, I mucked up there, I'll do better next time. Can anybody help me not make the same mistake again? As a team, that can be very productive. And giving and receiving constructive feedback. I remember, I'll go on for another 2 minutes. I used to go for the 360-degree, what do you call it, feedback sessions every year as part of my feedback. It didn't make a blind bit of difference. So constructive feedback would have made an awful lot of difference to my work pattern. And if there was a bonus in there as well, or a raise or something, which showed that I was appreciated. It could have just been €1 a month, but just to show that I'm appreciated makes a huge, huge difference. And trust of capability as well, allowing people to have some input in decisions and make their own decisions, not micromanage. And help people learn as well. If you don't grow within a team, then yeah, people leave for all sorts of reasons. If you're not growing, people are going to leave. This is fairly new, and I don't know if anybody has heard of the term VUCA. It's just an acronym: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. It's a coaching tool that we use to look at what is volatile in your life? What is uncertain? What's the complexity? How are things going on? And then what's ambiguous about it? Are you supposed to do this? Are you supposed to do that? It's a bit like every government in Europe at the moment. Stay in, go out, don't go in, go to restaurants, but you can't have a mask. You must wear a mask here. There's so much ambiguity and complexity at the moment. It's an uncertainty. It's unreal. But we need to move towards a global vision, global understanding, get clarity, and on our behalf, we need to be more adaptable and agile. Things are changing fast. I don't think things will go back to the way they are. And to look after our own mental health and well-being, we need to learn to adapt. Yeah, I'm just going to, 10 minutes. Okay, thanks, Brian. I'm just going to go quickly over these. You'll get the slides, but these are things that we can do to increase well-being in teams. Regular meetings, whatever, WebEx, Zoom, MS Teams, whatever technology you're using, check-in processes. Here again, I've repeated the 3 questions: how people are feeling, ask what they need. Not just practical stuff, I need a new laptop to run this process, but emotional support as well. Catch-up conversations, open and honest conversations. There's like 4 slides on this. Think about being at home can increase stress. I've already talked about that. I think we need extra communication, so everyone's up to date with all the news. Live meetings, walking meetings, being clear about what's being asked of you or what you are asking, setting boundaries. That's one of the biggest things we can do at the moment. I know a lot of people that are working early mornings and late nights. Really, I know some people are working 14, 16 hours a day. It is not healthy. Celebrating milestones, inclusion plans. It's not just onboarding for newcomers, but people that are timid and quiet in the team. Everyone needs to be included. Again, I've repeated, showing appreciation, staying healthy yourself, reflecting on how work is going, getting and giving feedback. I'm finding that more and more important as I go through. Keeping hydrated. I'm dying of thirst now. I forgot to bring a glass of water in with me. I'm working on belonging and team cohesion. Yeah, Brian's all right. I should have ordered a cup of tea, shouldn't I? Exercise, something that I need to also work on. I know all these things, but I still need to work on them. Being away from the desk, eating properly, not always pizza or high salt content food. Setting team challenges, helping others outside of work, get your mind off what you're doing. Online MOOCs. I'm a big proponent of massive online open courses. They're all over the place. They're free. There's no way that you can't learn things. And I know Frank Turley offers a lot of information on project management that you can learn at your own place on the topics you choose. So I think that it's very important that you do continue your education. And one thing here is ensuring people know where and when and how to ask for help. So here's my conclusion. You've heard everything I've had to say. Just be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. If you've got a well-being plan, books like this you can buy for your bosses, as I say. Well-being has to be implemented at all levels, not just top down and not have it. It's a nice to have. It has to be integrated into the company culture. So then you'll know that you're not alone and be community minded. I'm going to end it there because we've got 7 minutes left. So if you've got any questions, bring them on. I know I've talked a lot, but I've still got a few words left if you need them. Are there any
Super,
questions?
thanks, Andy. Anyone got any questions? Anything to ask Andy? Still 7
There's my
minutes. I'm
contact
on my way.
details. If anybody wants to take a screenshot of that, they can, and then I'll stop sharing. You can get my details off my from the website anyway. So, all you lovely lot, all you lovely faces, Any questions? A lot of information there to absorb.
Andy, have you been setting up some of the coffee corner sessions, and how do they go? And I'm finding that we're trying to use the new technology, but people don't activate their camera or still don't engage. How do you deal with problems like that?
Yeah, it is quite hard, and I think that a lot of the software that, or it could be a house rule that at least when you're doing maybe not a webinar like this, but certainly for meetings and that, you have to have your camera on initially to actually say hello. So in many of the online groups that I run, we make sure that the camera has to be on, otherwise we don't know who we're talking to, especially if it's people that we're not aware of. If they're in the same team, sure. But if you're talking to people that you don't know, have never seen before, then being able to see their face and just sort of know if they're smiling or not can make a lot of difference. If they want to turn their camera off afterwards, fine. But I think having the camera on initially in any meeting should be a rule.
I have a question. Hi, hello.
Hi, Magda. Hi.
Hi, Andy. Thanks a lot for a very interesting presentation and very inspiring, because I do believe that this is how the workplace should look like. I don't know how close we are to that workplace, but we should be doing anything we can. I was actually quite curious if you could tell us a little bit more about what you said about well-being and millennials, talent, and men. So I'm curious, like, why are those two specific group where do they? I'm a millennial myself. I'm not a man, obviously, but I wanted to see. Do you think that like these are the two groups that demand more well-being, or what would you?
Hopefully, yes. I think they're saying, and how true it is, I don't know. I haven't had much experience myself. I can only go on what the books and the reports and the publications say, but they are saying that people are demanding this. If the workplace isn't giving them what they need, they'll go somewhere else. So I think companies, in as much as like now with COVID-19, they've had to really adapt and provide home working. I think when we all start going back to the office, they're going to have to make the offices a more enticing place as well. So my hope is that, yes, millennials will push the front line and push companies for better working environments.
I was more curious actually about men, because I mean, maybe it's a stereotype, but I would think that it's more women maybe who are into, you know, community sharing, being vulnerable together. I would not perceive men as such, but I'm not a man, as I said, so it's a stereotype that
I think that the reason I mentioned men is because exactly for your reason, Magda. I like that question. Exactly, that is the reason I possibly mentioned men. Maybe I didn't phrase it properly, but it's not that men will ask for more well-being and that. It is more possibly a female trait. But in the men's groups that I run, I have to ensure that I have a space where men can open up if they are willing to. Now, one of the things here which is important for me is, and it's same in any leadership, I think one of the things that men can do, or leaders can do, male or female, is bring in that vulnerability and make sure that people tell their human story, which then gives permission for everybody else to open up that little bit more. And I find that men need that leadership. Women not so much, but men need that leadership to be able to have a space where they can open up and be vulnerable and not run purely on ego or machoism.
Thanks, Andy. I think I had questions as well, but I think we're just about running out of time.
Yeah.
Awesome and informative as ever. Very much appreciated for your contribution. Thank you. I was even screenshotting. I know we're going to get the slides. I didn't have to ask because I know that, but I was still print screening some of the slides thinking, oh, I like that one as well.
Yeah,
So
my pleasure.
thank you very much. As we've said, there's some other interesting presentations coming up. Feel free to join them. Others look at those as well. I have
Thank you.
one job left. I did try to contact Florian. I don't know if you're there, Florian, and whether you're happy to come on camera, but today you are our lucky winner, and you will win a year's free PMI membership, PMI chapter membership.
Hello, good afternoon. I just switched on my webcam. I don't know. I have to click start video. Yeah, here I am. Right, that's nice. Thank you very much. So the Dutch chapter will be happy to not make money on me this year.
But they're happy to keep you. That's the important thing. So
I'll stay anyway.
Well,
just the
yeah.
problem. Thank you very much for that, and thank you very much for a very inspiring presentation, which is very much what I'm working on myself. In the last
Good.
day.
Fantastic. Glad you enjoyed it.
Excellent. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, everyone. And I'm sure they stayed not just for the prize, Andy. I'm sure they wanted to hear every word you said.
Okay, there's a lot of words there. All right.
Super.
Thanks for organising.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right. Yeah.
Have a good day, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank
See
you.
you.
Let me know how you're feeling.
Yes, indeed. Very important.
All right.